People in the room, you will have the opportunity to make questions to the speakers at the end of every talk. So today, under this slogan, Beyond EC2U, we have been thinking in discuss three general topics. The first one is the R&I dimension of European University Alliances. Secondly, we will see how we can better involve and engage researchers from our universities by connecting them better, facilitating the already huge amount of work they have. And thirdly, we will examine how we can connect RI4C2 with EC2U, even in mind that the project ends in August, as I was saying, but the alliance still has a long way to go. Let me start introducing very, very briefly our colleague connected online, Ludovic Thilly. Ludovic is a full professor at the University of Poitiers and Executive Vice Rector for EC2U Alliance and European Networks. He was re-elected chair of the Coimbra Group in June 2020. Professor Thilly is also coordinator of the EC2U European University Alliance and coordinates for EU2, that group of involving 24 alliances, and he's for sure the global coordinator of the RI4C2 project, but above all is a very, very good friend of all of us. So Ludovic, it's your time. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Jorge, for the kind words. I hope you can hear me well. It's indeed a pleasure, although as we started the meeting already yesterday, more for internal matters of the SWAFS project, I regret that I cannot be with you, just like Joerg, Niehoff, I'm online, which is frustrating because I know Salamanca is a beautiful place, but I'm currently in Strasbourg and I will go to the European Parliament this afternoon. Briefly speaking, most of the people within the EC2U Alliance now know what is the RI4C2 project, which is the Research and Innovation for Cities and Citizens SWAFS Horizon 2020 project of the EC2U Alliance. And Joerg, I know, and I will introduce you in a few minutes, but I know that you also know this EC2U ecosystem a little bit. What I wanted to say as a very, very quick introductory remark, because indeed the session is to reflect and see what are the possibilities to continue to support the research and innovation dimension of the alliances. And this is why we have you here, Joerg, as a speaker, and thanks again for accepting to be with us. What I wanted to say as an introductory remark is that we have seen during the past 3-4 years, and this is not just the case for the EC2U Alliance, we have seen that actually these SWAFS projects have been particularly instrumental in moving forward the joint policies, the joint practices, and the joint services that the alliances can build to offer to their R&I communities. And this is excellent because I think it really created a totally new approach of what can the alliances achieve, not just about the mobility, not just about the education side, which is usually what we expect from a classical Erasmus Plus project. But as we all now say, the alliances are not anymore a project. They are a vision, they are a framework in which the group of universities are really pushing the boundaries, the barriers, the frontiers of what they can do together. In the particular case of the RI4C2 project, we have decided, and in a way it was probably I wouldn't say too ambitious, because we can never be too ambitious, but within the time constraints of a 3-year project with a not negligible but still limited budget, we had decided initially to address all the so-called transformation modules that were possibly offered in the call, which means that we have a work package on the transformation of our ecosystem. We have a work package on the joint strategy towards R&I agenda. We have a work package on the people empowerment. We have again as well a work package on the RNI platforms, and I speak here mostly about the digital platforms. We have a work package on the innovation, what we call the innovation spheres with all our local partners. We have a work package on citizen science. We have a work package on open science. And of course, within this RI4C2 project, we took the lead of the so-called 4EU2, the group of the informal group of the pilot 2 alliances. So a lot in our plates for 3 years. We are almost reaching the end in a few months. And so far, we believe we have delivered. And of course, the experts will confirm whether or not this impression is true. But what is for sure is that within the EC2U Alliance, thanks to this project, we have already achieved a lot. In particular, it was discussed yesterday. We had the meeting of all the vice rectors for research, and we have now made further progress, not only on the creation of new virtual institutes, which are sort of laboratories without walls, where all the researchers can cooperate together, not just the researchers, but we also bring in the teachers so we can make the synergy with the education. But to make the long story short, yesterday, again, we have agreed on the topics for the new virtual institutes, and now the different institutions are positioning themselves to lead each virtual institute. And I know from having participated to other alliance events that this particular point of the joint RNI agenda is usually considered as very sensitive, because usually we say research is bottom-up, but universities have a role in setting up their own RNI agenda. And now we talk at another level, which is the joint RNI agenda. And I'm very pleased that thanks to the SWAPS project, we could really put all the vice rectors for research and of course the rectors around the same table and have, after a careful analysis of our strengths or our strategies, individual strategies, we have found the common denominators, and now we have embarked into a mid to long-term joint RNI strategy, which will become a reality. So just was one example show that the SWAPS project have been absolutely instrumental in the further development of the alliances. So this is why we proposed this session on how to identify and where to identify possible continuation of the funding of RNI dimension, but let's say not specifically on the RNI projects themselves, because this we know our researchers, they are already collaborating and they know where they can apply. Here what we talk is also the framework conditions. How can we within an alliance push the frontiers to have a systemic impact on not just our own individual universities, but on the whole European landscape as a whole. And this is why I'm very pleased that we have with us today Joerg Niehoff. Joerg, thank you so much again for having accepted. You are indeed, as it was already introduced, the deputy head of the unit that has launched these discussions about the European excellence, about how also to link with the ERA governance and the implementation of the ERA at the DG Research at the Commission. And again, thank you very much. And I believe you will present us a sort of overview of where we are within the ERA forum and how the alliances are sitting somewhere, hopefully somewhere. And you will also, I believe, tell us more about what will come in the future, where we could possibly see some possibilities to continue to apply for funding.
Ludovic, and many thanks for inviting me here. Happy to make that small contribution. Of course, I would have preferred to be on the spot as well, but we have limitations, as you all know. So what I would like to do is briefly give you the policy context before saying something on future funding opportunities, because the context is important. You have, of course, on the one hand, the European Strategy for Universities. That's a policy framework that was designed by DG EAC in collaboration with us. And the policy framework from our side that we have is the so-called ERA forum, the ERA policy agenda. And this is an evolving policy framework. And I want to just give you a little bit the flavor of how things are currently shaping up, because it will have an impact on what we are funding for the rest of the framework program and what we can be possibly funding in the next framework program. So let me see if I manage now to share my screen. Oh, host disabled participant screen sharing. So then I would ask you, Ricardo, to share the screen instead of me, because I'm apparently not allowed to do that. Let's see if that comes up. So
just a second while it comes.
Yeah, sure. I'll just start talking a little bit already. So the European Research Area is, as you know, not a new concept. We have relaunched that in 2020, and we have now a very good and stable collaboration, not only with the member states that classically work with us in the on the European Research Area, but also very importantly with the stakeholders. So we have now all stakeholder organizations being represented one way or the other in the forum, and that leads to a very different discussion. You are aware that we had a first ERA policy agenda, and we are going to show in a second the 20 actions that were agreed to be implemented in that first ERA policy agenda. And important to keep in mind that these actions have been selected and agreed also with the understanding that the member states, the stakeholders, commit also to implement these actions on their side. So it's not that just the Commission puts funding and resources forward to address these issues. It's a collective effort that is also then reflected in the monitoring and reporting that we have built around these. I'll just give Ricardo a chance to get the slides up.
Or maybe just give you the right to share your own slides.
That would also be an easy thing if someone can do
Apologies for that, Joerg.
that.
Sorry, Joerg, I don't have the permissions as well.
Okay, then I would just continue without slides, and we share the slides afterwards with the participants. I think it's not a problem. So those of you that remember having seen the list of these 20 actions for the ERA policy agenda, there is one that was dedicated to empowering higher education institutions. And at the core of that was to develop elements of a European Excellence Initiative. And that also then turned into funding opportunities, and I'll come back to that in a second. On the other hand, if you look at these 20 actions, you see that almost all of them are relevant for universities, from data legislation to research assessment, and so on and so far. So there's basically hardly any action in there that is not relevant for universities. And what we have tried to do with the SWOFS call and also with the European Excellence Initiative, provide you with a possibility to basically address these dimensions when you talk about excellence, framework conditions for excellence in R&I. Now, this is now being basically finalized in terms of the actions are supposed to be implemented until the end of this year. So the main discussions that today are happening in the ERA forum is about what are the future priorities that should be addressed in the time frame 25 to 27. And that is a process that has started now with member states, stakeholders, and Commission colleagues proposing potential candidates for actions, and these are currently being discussed. And very importantly, there is now a notion that we will have probably two categories of elements of priorities that we will see in the next ERA policy agenda. One is what we call structural policy, so topics that are of a long-term relevance, research infrastructures, for example, that we will have to follow and coordinate our efforts in the long term. And then there are the classical ERA policy agenda actions, where we have a dedicated work plan with deliverables and milestones that are valid for the next 3 years. And as you can imagine, with different stakeholders, member states, Commission making proposals and discussing them, there is not yet a clear picture. So we have tried to approach that step by step. We had made a survey to understand are these all relevant? And we see some topics not having a lot of support and falling out. We also asked the question, do you see them rather as structural policies, or do you see them rather as actions that we concentrate on the next 3 years? Again, you start getting a pattern, but I think for the moment we are where we are, and we are now going to discuss that at the level of the Director Generals in the European Research Innovation Area Committee in Namur in a few weeks from now. The timeline that we are looking at is basically using this process to get as much clarity as possible until the new commission is in place after the elections, and then the commission would make a proposal for the next ERA policy agenda towards the beginning of 2025, and that would then be adopted as a council recommendation in mid-25, and then we start implementing the next ERA policy agenda. Why do I explain that? Because this will basically then also define what are we going to support at EU level with funding in the years 2026 and 2027. And again, you will see those of you that have access to the documents or will see them at a later stage, a lot of actions again fully relevant for universities. And there's still the open question, will we again have a dedicated action for the higher education sector? There was one proposal made under the title Unleashing the Full R&I Potential of Europe's Universities. But there are still question marks around that topic. And I think in the last meeting of the ERA Forum, there was a little bit of a tendency to see this rather as a long-term priority, as a structural policy, rather than a short-term action, which I think is adequate to the topic. So that's where we are today with the progress on defining future priorities. And of course, that will have an impact also on the discussions on the Framework Program 10, which is starting, as you know. Now, what we have done so far to support the alliances of universities is the SWOFs call that you benefited from, where we have supported 39 out of the first 41 alliances with, I think it's around 2 million per alliance. It's not a lot of money. We had a pilot call under the widening part of WID-ERA in 2021, where we funded 9 proposals. That was for us not a great success because we could not spend the budget that we had allocated to the topic. It was much better now under the 2023 call, where projects are now starting, where we have selected 12 projects, including 6 from existing university alliances. And the funding here is between 2 and 5 million, so a lot more funding available for a 4-year project. And of course, this is only for those alliances that in the end managed to get into this call and address in a comprehensive fashion the different elements for the R&I dimension. But of course, we had other calls as well, for research management, for acceleration of institutional development, and so on and so forth. Now, this is now what we have done so far, the funding opportunities, and that's an important slide that you hopefully will then see in a bit, because there's also the link to the info day. We are currently processing an amendment to the existing work program 2024. And that's important because in here, do I see my slides now?
Now you have the slides.
Fantastic. Further down, it's the last slide basically that I need now. Further down, further down. That's the one. Okay, good. So we are currently processing the amendment to the existing work program. And that's important because we are going to include a new call that is opening in May and closing in late September. And that call has 3 topics that are all of them, I believe, relevant for higher education sector and potentially for the alliances, especially the last one. The first one is something that we had done before. It's an experimentation topic for knowledge valorization, and we have seen higher education sector being active in there. So that's one topic. The second topic is dedicated to something we call Science Comes to Town. You might be aware that we did in the past support the City of Science activities, first time in Leiden and this year in Katowice, where a single city is organizing a program of activities. We want to bring that now to the next level. So we have earmarked a budget of 6 million to fund one consortium of a number of cities, at least 3, that organize an annual program of activities for 2026. And of course, while the cities have to be at the core of that activity, it only works if they are somehow engaging with their scientific and research ecosystem. So of course, you will look at cities that have higher education institutions, universities in there, and therefore have a look if you have an interest in this topic. If yes, reach out to your city, to the mayor, whatever, in order to make sure that you consider making a proposal there. So universities can be clearly part of consortia, while we want the cities to be in the driving seat. And the last topic I think is extremely important for you. It is a call where we are trying to build ecosystems of organizations that have research positions. So academia, research performing organizations, businesses, and so on and so far, where first of all, you can build a pipeline for career perspectives outside the academia, where secondly, you can make sure that what you do in terms of training of researchers is also taking into account the labor market requirements that the researchers will further on have. And last but not least, it gives the possibility and soft obligation to also address our research competence framework and make sure that institutions basically develop human resource strategies that are fully in line with the agreement that we also have in the Council recommendation. That's a call with 20 million, so that's for us a very substantial call that we are funding here. And it's nevertheless a pilot call because we see the potential, if this really shows a good outcome, that we can also then deploy that in a thematic context. You can easily imagine to say, okay, we want to have such a ecosystem for research careers on photonics, on artificial intelligence, and so on and so forth. So for us, 3 very important call topics, and we have the info day on this on the 22nd of April. So we will send out invitations, etc., to join once we have the work program beyond the voting in the program committee and we walk towards adoption. But keep that in mind, opening in May 2024, closure in September 2024. Now, this is then the last work program that basically has elements that are new to the policy agenda. The work program 2025, so the regular work program 2025, will be adopted under the new commission, so in the first or second quarter next year. This work program we will dedicate to rolling out the results of the ERA policy agenda. So we will again have a novel approach here. We are planning to have a bottom-up call where we identify a number of actions of the ERA policy agenda, where we want basically stakeholders, you, the universities, to give the possibility to focus on dedicated actions where you say, these we want to further roll out in the context of our institution, or we want to engage with stakeholders to take it to the next step, or policy experimentation topics, communities of practice, etc., etc. So we are also going to experiment with tools that can be used. And of course, many of the things that Ludovic said about his project are extremely relevant in that context as well. So that is a call that you will only see emerging in early next year. We are currently discussing this with the program committee, but keep an eye on that because that again will be a substantial budget and it will allow you, with the flexibility that we have not been able to give you before, to basically pick the topics that are most relevant for you. Then we have the regular work program 26-27, which will focus on the implementation of the new ERA policy agenda. We also have, as you know, in our work program, the widening part with a big budget and the ERA part with a small budget. So everything I said until here is small budget in the ERA part. What we want to offer again in 2026, subject to the confirmation of internal discussions and program committee, is another call, a third call for the European Excellence Initiative, where we again offer the possibility for alliances of universities, including the European University Alliances, to apply for comprehensive funding addressing the I&I dimension. This will be the last one that we can offer under Horizon Europe, and that's basically then the elements that we can offer for the transformative agenda. Now, what happens then towards FP10? I can tell you what we are not going to see happening. We're not going to see happening substantial budgets that are earmarked to support universities in their transformation agenda. We're not going to see under Horizon Europe successor a dedicated program part for alliances of universities. We're also not going to see, even if these scenarios have been discussed, substantial budgets going from the framework program to Erasmus Plus in order to complement the funding and allow funding in one hand. This is, of course, something that would be important to have, so we don't have that fragmentation of different contracts, but it's not going to happen by moving budgets from the framework program to Erasmus Plus. I don't believe so, and my bosses don't believe so either. What we can do are two things. I believe it is not very difficult under the future Erasmus Plus program to make sure that the funding for the university alliances can address all missions of the universities. If you see what we do today under the SWOFS projects and under the excellence initiatives, all these things from the scope are potentially possible under Erasmus Plus. If you look the alliances for innovation, it's not very different in the substance. We are not putting any substantial money into research activities as such. So I think it merits a discussion internally and also with the stakeholders if that would not be the most appropriate approach. Under Horizon Europe successor, so FP10, we will of course continue to fund research. That's the purpose of the framework program. But we are also hoping to get a substantial pillar to support the European research area. And in there, of course, also all relevant stakeholder organizations, including the higher education sector. So for us, this framework of the ERA policy agenda with the rotating agreement of member states and stakeholders on the new priorities, also for the modernization of the higher education sector, that's for us the string that we can spin in order to provide funding. So we are going to design this then in the context of the ERA priority, the ERA part of the next framework program, and hopefully we'll then be able to address agreed new priorities for the higher education sector also in that specific part. The rest we have to see now when we get clarity about what the Commission will actually propose under the next multi-annual financial framework program, and then we look at the wisdom of the co-legislators, the member states and the parliament to turn that into something that is well funded and in the right scope in order to make also good work for you possible. So, Ludovic, with this, I'm at the end of my my input that I can give and happy to take any questions.
Thank you.
So I think Bart Veys, head of the policy unit, is connected online. I wonder if he can. Yes, exactly. There. Hello, Bart. Good morning. You're on screen. Thank you very much for being here with us. Bart, I'll let you present it to the room, is the head of the policy unit of the Cost Association. He's working on research and innovation policies and strategic development for a while now. And I would like to take the opportunity to introduce COST, the association, and it's actually a funding mechanism for networks, and we have invited COST also for that because we are an alliance and has a support structure. There's an opportunity to help us out developing our alliance. So they connect research initiative across Europe and enable researchers and innovators to grow their ideas in the field of science, in any field of science and technology. They're bottom-up research networks, and they fund up to 4 years of research, which is a period which is, similar to the one that we have in the Alliance. So we're very happy to have you on board and tell us a bit about funding mechanisms and how can we progress in building our alliance. Thank you very much for accepting the invitation and replacing Ursula and having the availability to replace Ursula that she's on sick leave. So thank you very much for being here with us.
Yes, thanks a lot, Ricardo, and good morning everyone in the room and online. It's a pleasure to be here. Just maybe to check how much time would you like me to talk? I can talk for hours, but I don't think that's the plan of today. We say 15 minutes or something. Is that good? You're muted, Ricardo.
So 30 to 45 minutes, and if we have time for questions, that would be great.
All right, good. I'll try to share.
But if you have to use more time and you if you want to tell us,
I'll try to get to the point. Good.
Thank you very much.
Do you see my screen? Is it working?
Yes, not on full screen mode right now, but it's exactly now.
Okay, good, perfect. Then I start. So thank you, Ricardo, on a very brief summary of costs. Indeed, we're, let's say, a funding organization within Horizon Europe, and I'm going to tell you a bit what it is and how you can apply to the cost actions. So my name is Bart Veys. I'm the head of the policy unit at Cost. So we mainly work on governance relations, stakeholder relations, and so on. But presenting the cost framework and cost mission as part, let's say, of everyone's job description at Cost. So I'm happy to be here with you today. So the mission of Cost is to provide networking opportunities for researchers and innovators. So important to note is that it's about networking opportunities. So we do not fund, let's say, salaries or infrastructure, but we fund the networking for researchers, so bringing researchers together in the so-called cost actions. I'll explain in more detail what it is exactly, the funding, and how you can benefit from it. And our vision is to become Europe's most empowering research program, because we do not give only funding for, let's say, your networking part, but we give as well additional activities, or we organize additional activities with the cost actions, which really are, let's say, in line with our stewardship philosophy to create as much as possible impact within those 4 years. We have 3 strategic priorities. It's promoting and spreading excellence, it's fostering interdisciplinary research for breakthrough science, and it's empowering and retaining young researchers. So these are the 3 key topics, and you see them coming back in most of the activities of cost actions. So we have, say, an intergovernmental structure. So we're quite specific animal, let's say, in Horizon Europe. So we have a membership which is based on country level. So we have 41 cost members. They make the governance of cost. There's 1 cooperating member, there's 1 partner member, for the moment 1 partner member. So this means that it's a non-European country, but they have some, let's say, preferential, let's say, access within their national systems to join the cost. You see here the division in colors, the purple colors and the green colors on the map. As you know, this is a division the EU makes in terms of widening. We have another name, of course, we call them inclusiveness target countries and non-inclusiveness target countries, but Cost really has the ambition to include everyone within the wider European research area into the cost actions. So we're, as I said, a part of Horizon Europe. We are in the widening participation and strengthening the European research area pillar, already mentioned by the previous speaker, by Joerg. So Cost is an integral part in that. We have a framework partnership agreement and a specific grant agreement with the European Commission. So Cost is, in a way, kind of a project in which we then fund ourselves the cost actions. So they receive budgets that we have received from the Commission. So we run calls, we evaluate proposals, and we run projects under the rules of third-party funding. So the Cost Association is based in Brussels, and you can compare it with one of the executive agencies, the European Commission, for example, which also implements and manage projects within Horizon. Cost is doing that for cost action. Some key figures. So at the moment, we have 292 running cost actions, so 292 networks of researchers and innovators, and in total, around 50,000 researchers are involved, meaning that they have or are participating in one of the projects. And on average, there's 200 researchers per cost action. Of course, you have smaller actions, big cost actions, but this would be the actions. So on the second line, we see some more specific numbers. 42 of the researchers in our actions are young researchers. On average, cost action has 19 wider countries involved. So this makes Cost really inclusive and a very diverse program. And 52% of the leadership positions are occupied by female researchers. So that's statistics we can present to you. And the annual budget of cost action is around 134,000 euros. So you see, this is not the biggest money in Horizon terminology, but this is really to fund the networking of researchers, so bringing researchers together in order to develop, let's say, solutions to all kinds of societal challenges within the cost actions. So how does it work? There's a main proposer. Well, I took the Belgian flag. I'm Belgian, sorry to be biased here. They come up with a suggestion, an idea. It's about research coordination and capacity building. I'll talk about, let's say, the process of applying it a bit later on. But this is the main idea. So there's a main proposer comes up with an idea and suggests a proposal or makes a proposal to the cost open call. For this, you need to have at the minimum 7 countries, researchers affiliated to 7 countries, and they submit the proposal. And the nice thing about cost is that, so when the proposal is funded, it comes into a cost action, and then other countries can join. So there's no fixed consortium of people who propose a project and then run the project. And that's one of the key features of cost, which makes it quite unique. That the project is open. So countries and researchers from all of the cost member countries can join, say, the cost activities and get reimbursed for the participation and the cost action. So that's a bit the main philosophy and presenting the openness of the cost framework. So the cost actions, in the middle you see some, let's say, tools we can fund or we can, let's say, offer to the cost actions in order to create, let's say, as big as possible impact in 4 years. So it's about meetings, conferences, conference grants. You can organize training schools. You can organize short-term scientific missions. You can get money for dissemination activities. There's money for virtual networking grants. So all of these, let's say, instruments are at your availability when you, let's say, have successfully proposed a cost action. Besides that, we also organize many activities centrally. So you see, let's say, in the bubbles, let's say the outline bubbles, you see different tools we offer to you, which are trying to create even additional impact. So this, for example, on the top, you see the Cost Academy. If you're part of Cost Action, you can get training within the Cost Academy, which is an academy focusing on grant management, some science and policy advice, how to engage with stakeholders, how to communicate your science, how to manage grant accuracy. So this is what we do with the Cost Academy. So if you are part of Cost Action, you can receive funding within this Cost Academy tool as well. You have the Cost Connect event, so we bring people together within the Cost Actions who have work on a similar topic. So we bring together, we liaise, reach out to stakeholders who then connect with the actions as well. There's a Cost Innovators grant, which is an add-on grant for if you have innovation potential within your action. So all of these tools are, say, in a way complementing the activities within the cost actions. And at the bottom you see some text. This is the impact we try to create, or with our cost actions, or the impact we see happening within cost actions. So 95% of the researchers participating in cost actions indicate that their participation has led to career advancement, for example, or that there was a big increase in co-publications, or they had a bigger success rate in Horizon 2020 proposals. So this is something what we track and have some more details in the next slide. So there are numerous, let's say, outputs and impacts of cost actions. And of course, they do not only relate to scientific impact. For example, what you see here, I think you can see, or you have say, an understanding of what this picture is. It was the discovery of a black hole, or the picture taken of a black hole. And the mathematics, which were, let's say, needed to construct this is of course not a picture, it's mathematics turned into a picture, was done within a cost action. So that's a very scientific breakthrough or impact, and this is one of the 300 cost actions we're running on a yearly basis. So just to give you an example, and maybe to come back to all kind of other impacts which we can see in cost actions follow-up proposals. So if you bring a group of people together, a group of researchers together, they talk about their research, but they also talk about follow-up funding. And this is what we see within cost actions, and this is what we evaluate after their 4 years. And follow-up proposals spinning off from cost actions have 39% success rate. So within the Horizon framework programs. So on average, we have 60 actions which end every year, and per action, on average, there's 5.8 million spin-off funding, let's say, coming to the participants of the cost action. This is because you build a network with people, you know who to work with, you know who to trust, and then automatically there's an application to other funding schemes such as Horizon follow-up project. So this is also one of the impacts, besides the career advancement and besides the scientific impact, of which we are proud of, which is let's say available to you if you join cost action activities. So what is a cost action? A bit more detail. So it's an efficient networking tool. And here you see on the left that we provide funding for research coordination and capacity building activities. So we are not funding salaries or infrastructures, but we pool people within a specific research topic, or let's say topic inside. We bring them together and we fund their coordination and capacity building activities. Cost action has a memorandum of understanding, of course, building further on the proposal you did. It's 4 years, and there's a minimum of 7 countries. So on average, 30 countries participate in cost action. So if you have a cost action, you have, let's say, access to a wide group of people, researchers who are active within your field of science, within your field of research. And that's, I think, the interesting thing of cost action. So you will meet people from across Europe who work on similar topics, have the capacity and the availability to network with them to further enhance your research. And over a lifetime, so 4 years, cost actions receive up to 600,000. So the cost action in a bit more detail. So of course, there's a management committee of a cost action, which is the main leadership. Cost action has a chair, vice chair, and is supported by a grant holder. And the indicative number of working groups, where let's say the real work happens, is between 3 and 6. So this is going into a bit more detail of the general idea of cost action. If you would like to have ideas on what cost actions are doing, I would suggest that you go to the cost action website, where there is full detailed explanation on every cost action, what their objectives are. You can read the memorandum of understanding, and you can really get an idea of what cost actions do. And all of this is supported by the cost association administration, as I said, based in Brussels. And we manage these networks of researchers. So this is a bit of the networking. There's a bit of a typo there, but the G is in the second line. So the networking activities we offer for you, as said before, and I will be brief because I already touched upon them briefly, but this is what happens within a specific cost action. So we offer you money for meetings, for working group meetings, for training schools, workshops, conferences, short-term scientific missions. Maybe to pause here on this one. This is a short-term, let's say, mobility grant we give to researchers so they can visit another lab, another university, another organization in another country, and stay there for a week or a month. So there are, of course, conditions, but this is something which is very popular, used a lot within the actions. So it provides really an individual grant for research or someone working at a university to travel to learn. This often then leads to co-publications, to papers, to other, let's say, longer-term collaborations with universities. There's money for virtual networking grants. There's an ITC conference grant for young researchers. If you are presenting a conference, you can use cost budget for that. There's the dissemination conference grant. So if you were attending a conference abroad, and you will talk about your research leads to the cost action, then you can get funding for your travels with the conference fee, for example. There's dissemination communication products, so this open access publication we fund the publication of books, websites, and what you have. So this is what is at your disposal Sorry, what is at your disposal in order to, if you're part of this section? That's quite a wide variety of instruments which we have. So very brief on what we can offer in terms of funding. So if you travel to a meeting, so being a management committee meeting or workshop, then we offer travel reimbursement of the meeting participants. So there's a daily allowance, and the long distance travel is reimbursed. And besides that, we have local organizers. If your university organizes a cost meeting, then we can give you funding for room rental, for coffee breaks, for technical equipment, all these things which are linked to a meeting. We are funding for you according, of course, to rules. We do not give you a blank check, of course, but this is in general what we offer to you, so that everyone who's, let's say, present at the meeting and as well as the organizer is fully funded and reimbursed to have a meeting, to let the meeting take. So the mobility of researchers, the short-term scientific missions is up to 4,000 euros you receive for your travel and your accommodation. So we see these are missions which take 5, 10, 14 days, and this is the funding you receive. So this is the action itself. When it is funded, who will decide on the budgets available for each tool. So, but it's up to 4,000 euros for this one. Virtual mobility grants, which is a grant you receive to work on, for example, a virtual conference, which you do at your university or even at home. So that's up to 1,500 euros. Dissemination of research activities, ITC conference grants to travel to events, 2,000 euros, 500 euros virtual events, and that's mainly the registration fee of this one, which we can pay. And the dissemination conference grants for non-ITC researchers, let's say from France, Spain, okay, they can receive also up to 2,000 euros to travel to, let's say, disseminate their research scientific expertise to an audience. This is available for funding, and as said before, the dissemination activities, open access publications, books, websites, always, let's say, in negotiation with the cost association. Every cost action has a science officer who, let's say, will discuss how you can spend the budget within a given year. So every year, there's a negotiation in place. We want to have that amount of funding for meetings, that amount of funding for STSMs, short mobility schemes, or for dissemination. That this is put into a small contract. This can be, let's say, implemented in the year which is coming. So how to engage with cost, which is my last part of my presentation. So you have seen what cost actions are. We situate ourselves in, let's say, the EU RI funding instruments and what the potential impact is of the work we do. But how do you get involved? Maybe the most interesting question for you. So there's 3 steps. The first 2 are the most important ones. So as a participant of our running action, second one is as a proposer of a new cost action, and the third one is as an expert to evaluate submitted proposals. This is, of course, let's say, a less important step, I guess, for you. So I will focus mainly on the first 2. So as I said before, as a participant of a running action, the beauty of cost is that once a proposal is, let's say, allowed to start, so if it has a positive valuation, then you can still join this proposal or this network after it has kicked off. So what I suggest you to do is go to the cost website, so cost.eu, where you can browse all the cost actions, or you can easily search a topic which is of interest to you. You can read the project plan, so the memorandum of understanding, and see how can I contribute to this cost action. Every cost action also has its own website, so let's say the summary is on our website, but every action has its own, let's say, project website, where they have listed, or usually list, all their activities, their meetings, their events they organize. And then you can identify your opportunities on how you can join the action. Think, how can I contribute? The relevant contact persons. So this is how it works more practical term, every action, so that's blue, as a management committee. This goes via the cross-national committee. There are only two MC, so management committee representatives per country. But this is really, talking about the general management of the cost action, the overall strategy, the budget. This is not really, let's say, the networking as such, but more the management of the, let's say, the overall cost action. So we do researches per member. Member states are allowed in the management committee. The more interesting part, I think, is as a working group participant. So you really join one of the working groups. This is easily done through our website. Or you join as a participant in one of the action activities. So you apply for a short-term mission for a conference grant, or you go to a training school, you go to a workshop. Often these, let's say, events have kind of an application scheme where you have to submit your interest. Of course, they will not give you the money out of nothing in order to go into a short-term scientific mission. You really have to apply to a call which they then the management of the action will look, okay, this is an interesting potential participant to a training school. He or she will be allowed to join. So this is my advice then, to check the cost action's website and contact the chair or the national representative, which is in charge of cost action. Second step is as a proposal of new cost action. So imagine you as a group or as an individual do not find your interest within current running cost action. We have a cost open call. So every year there's let's say an open call. It's a one-stage online submission of proposals, which is running via our eCost platform. It's a bit the equivalent of the Cordis EU system. So, but this is something we manage by ourselves. It's called eCost. There's a link in our general website where you can easily access eCost and have a look at how it works. So you need to have a main proposer and secondary proposers who together submit a proposal. So the tool in eCost is easily managed to set up, let's say, a proposal, and where you then can invite secondary proposals to join the proposal. So proposals should focus on S&T excellence, networking excellence, impact implementation. A bit more detail on that in the next slide. So the next collection date is the 23rd of October 2024, so 12 o'clock. So you can already submit now. Every year in October we empty the bucket of actions we have received. It's always at the end of October. At the last October, so October 2023, we received more than 500 proposals. So for construction networks, and we fund this year 60 actions. So that's depending on the budget we receive from the Commission. And this year we will receive 60 or fund 60 actions. So the success rate is a bit more than 10%. And more information is cost website, or you can write an email to open call at the cost and we will answer questions. So proposals. So you have a general feature, which is talking about, let's say, the main idea of the action, title, keywords. Then you have a technical annex. So the second thing, the second bullet here, and this has a bit more detail, which I will focus on a bit later. You also need to talk in your proposal about cost excellence and inclusiveness policies. So we are part of the widening pillar in the West, and we have the, let's say, the ambition to be inclusive as possible. So if you would only focus your activities within the network for, let's say, non-widening countries, this will not be accepted. So you really need to have a plan on how you will make your action as inclusive as possible. So not only talking about geographical coverage, but also about gender balance, the inclusion of young researchers. So you need to have an idea on how you will make this happen. And then the proposal in the end is completed by the network of proposals, which we will see. Submitted proposal which will not be seen by evaluators. It's a double-blind peer review proposal or evaluation scheme. But these are the 4 key aspects to consider within the proposal. So a bit more detail on, let's say, the technical annex, which is, let's say, the main body of the proposal. It's about S&T excellence. So what is the soundness of the challenge, and what is the progress you will make within this network beyond state of the art and bringing this together. So the second thing is networking excellence. So what is the added value of networking in science and technology excellence? What will your network add to what already exists, say in Europe, within a specific field, a specific domain, specific group, and what is the added value of networking impact? So that's something we need to consider. Third one is impact. So what is the impact of science, society, the potential innovation or breakthroughs, and how are you going to measure to maximize? What measures are you going to implement to maximize impact? And then implementation, what is the coherence and effectiveness of the work plan? So how are you going to do that, taking into account the tools you have available within cost plan? So the first 3 sections are on have up to 15 points you can earn for these 3 sections, and the last one is 5 points. So it's a proposal which is evaluated towards a score of 50, and if you score 45, 46, you can be sure about it. So that's a bit.
Bart, if I may interrupt
Yes.
a little bit. So can you maybe speed up a bit on the thing? Yeah, thank you.
So this is my last slide is to evaluation. So we have several steps. So next, and this is what you know, it's an external remote evaluation by independent experts. There's a review panel. There's a selection by the scientific committee focusing on cost policies and objectives, and there's an approval by a committee of senior officials. I will highlight one thing: be sure your proposal is anonymous. So don't make references to names, to groups, to universities, but really focus on the idea of your proposal. So that's what I wanted to highlight. And a minimum of 50% of the proposals need to be affiliated to institutions and ITCs. So that's something you need to consider. And then the third step to join as an external expert, as I said, this is a very small part, we go into detail. And we have a general online cost info day, 22nd of March, where we will go into more detail of what I just told here. So if you have an interest, it's in 2 weeks' time. So please feel free to join, and you can register via which is in the slide. And that's it. So sorry for being a bit over time. That's fine. Thanks.
Perfect, Bart. Thank you very much.